Ravens Wrap is sponsored by Bud Light, jctickets.net, Geico Insurance, Donaway Furniture, Ocean City Golf Club, RussellStreetReport.com, Comfort Inn Gold Coast, Holiday Inn Express, the original Green Turtle, hosted by the Blue Ox Bar and Grill.
Welcome back. It's the original Green Turtles Ravens Wrap Show right here on Comcast Beach TV and Delmarva's Rock Radio, the strongest Ravens affiliate on the peninsula. 93.5 The Beach, celebrating 6 years along with me of covering the Ravens and airing the Ravens on the Eastern Shore. So we want to let everybody know, of course, we are broadcasting from the infamous Ravens Room of the Blue Ox Bar and Grill, 127th Street and Coastal Highway in Ocean City, with Ravens News 44 and fans all across Delmarva. And, of course, don't forget the upcoming game, 1 o'clock against the Miami Dolphins down in South Beach. Pregame, network pregame, that is at 12:30. The radio portion of the show airing at 11 o'clock. The Ravens Wrap Show brought to you by our friends at the original Green Turtle, the Blue Ox Bar and Grill, Bud Light, the Comfort Inn Gold Coast, Geico, the Ocean City Golf Club, jctickets.net, the Holiday Inn Express North Side at Ocean City, and our friends at Donaway Furniture. And, folks, all of our advertisers give away great items, again, for us to give out to you, the crowd. So it's well worth your while to come on down to the show as we're giving out Bud Light prize packs, we're giving out golf certificates, free stays at hotels, all sorts of great stuff. So we want you to come on down. And, hey, don't forget our friends at Donaway Furniture, the best prices on mattresses at the beach. They're giving away a free Serta I-Series box spring with purchase of a mattress. They also carry a replacement mattress and box spring sets for as low as $399 for a queen set. 410-250-5100, located at 130th Street and Coastal Highway in Ocean City. And, of course, they've given us this really awesome set here for year number, what is it, 12 or 13 of the Ravens Wrap Show here. Now, I apologize about that. It's great. It's absolutely great. Awesome. Yeah. Mike Bradley, Steve Slaza, Bobby Vermillion, and special guest Tom Moore on the Ravens Wrap Show here. And, hey, a quick congratulations, by the way, to Torrey Smith. He announced with his wife that they are having a baby. And it's funny, they got out a Prego can of sauce and said something about we're Prego. They put a little sticker that said we're Prego above the Prego label.
That was awesome. The way
so, yeah, this is pretty neat. So congratulations to the both of them. Another Ravens fan coming in 9 months. Well, hey, let's go through some transactions and some big news that happened this week, and we'll get back to recapping and wrapping up the 23-20 loss to the Buffalo Bills on Sunday. The Ravens cut safety Christian Thompson, who served his 4-game suspension due to, I believe, the drug policy. So they cut him. They drafted him out of South Carolina State, I believe it was, out of the MEAC just a couple of years ago. Kind of surprising that they would cut a draft pick so quickly, but they're pretty stacked at safety. So it's a surprise, but then it's not a surprise at the same time with that. And who knows, guys come and go all the time. Some guys come back to the roster. But the big news of the day, Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, the Ravens traded multiple third-day draft picks for offensive tackle, left tackle specifically, Eugene Monroe from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, he started 62 games for the Jags after they selected him 8th overall in 2009, 15 picks before the Ravens drafted Michael Orr, their starting right tackle, of course. And Pro Football Focus graded Monroe as the NFL's 10th best left tackle in 2012 and 15th best tackle overall. He allowed just 1 sack and 15 total pressures. His wife, by the way, happens to be from the Baltimore area. Now, Monroe's under contract this season with a base salary of $3.8 million. After the first couple of games, the Ravens are still on the hook for $2.9 million. But this is the final year of his contract, and they drafted, they traded away third-day draft picks, which means we don't have anything specific yet, but fourth-round and lower draft picks. And for a guy that just has 1 year left on his contract, I think that's part of it. In terms of Bryant McKinney, this would seem to spell the fact that he's going to the bench, maybe being traded, but there's no upside to cutting McKinney. His $1 million base salary is already guaranteed for the season as a vested veteran, and he was paid a $2 million signing bonus in May. They will have to make a roster move to create a spot for Monroe, but it's expected to be a guy lower on the depth chart. But that said, guys, they have to create some cap space as well. They only had a little less than $2 million to begin with after some of the additional signings due to injuries like a Dallas Clark, Brandon Stokely, et cetera.
It's going to be tight. I mean, it'll be interesting to see who they end up cutting to make room for him. But, I think this is, as the offensive lineman, you see this come in, Bobby, don't you have to think, I got to start really practicing hard. I mean, I can't fool around anymore because, they did this to a guy who basically pushed them during a Super Bowl run. What are they going to do to me?
Well, McKinney basically didn't play all last season until the playoffs, so we really didn't know what we had until we got, and he had a great run in the playoffs. But you got to believe that Ozzie Newsome and John Harbaugh, this has to also come from this party bus incident as well. Here, Ray Lewis talked about it, about the lack of leadership on the Ravens, and when you got a veteran guy like McKinney, and they've tried to make this guy a leader, they've tried to help him with his weight, they've tried to push him to be a harder worker. You got a guy out there you're paying decent money to, you keep giving him, additional chances, albeit he played great in the playoffs for us last year and was a big difference and helped us win a Super Bowl. This year he comes in, he decides to take a party bus to D.C. with Jacoby Jones. They get into a little incident. I don't think it's an accident. 2 weeks later, we pick up a left tackle. And I think you, like you said, I think this might spell the end of McKinney, because I really didn't think McKinney was playing that bad. I mean, he wasn't playing great but you could say that about the whole offensive line. But this could be also a long-term solution for the Ravens as well, Tom.
I completely agree with you, Bobby. I mean, McKinney has had his series of incidents. He had the famous love boat in Minnesota when he was on that fun adventure. And then he had a bar incident not 2 years after that, also in Minnesota. And then, of course, he's on the doghouse, or in the doghouse, you might want to say, all of last season until finally showing up in the Super Bowl, the playoff run. So, yeah, I think there's some animosity between him and John Harbaugh.
Look, I respect that point of view, but I'll counterpoint that. I don't think it has anything to do with the bus. I think it has to do with play on the field, period, and the previous experiences that they've had with him. Because trust me, if he was playing great, party bus or no party bus, he'd still be playing right now.
But you talked about Osemele. You could say the same thing about Orr.
Yeah, but Osemele doesn't have the pass that McKinney does and lack of work ethic, and he's only a second-year player for him.
That's true, but also if you look at McKinney's body of work on the field, he's a decent left tackle. He's not awful. Albeit he had 3 or 4 bad games, which I don't think they were horrible games. They certainly weren't perfect, but they weren't bad enough to make the move unless that you feel like you can get a guy that can be a long-term solution. So I think if they tie Monroe up for the long term and he ends up being our left tackle for the next 6 or 7 years, I think it's a great move. But I also think it does send a message to the other guys on the team, like Steve alluded to. They kind of look in the mirror and say, look, they were probably looking for a guy like McKinney, who's a veteran, to be somewhat of a leader on that offensive line that they lose Burke. And now the guy that they're counting on goes out and has an incident and embarrasses the franchise.
Well, let me just say this, though. McKinney made the wise move. They got a party bus. They didn't drink and drive. And that bottle was thrown at Jacoby Jones, not Bryant McKinney. Again, look, what have we been talking about? The lack of a run game. And where does Bryant McKinney hurt us the most on that line? He's probably the worst run blocker on that offensive line. I still think majority has to do with his play on the field and not that party bus. I
can say this. They ran to the right side a lot on Sunday. They didn't have much success there either.
So. Well, no, and I agree, and I don't think he should be the fall guy this year. Right. But I think, too, it speaks to Steve. If you have a chance to get a Eugene Monroe and then tie him up in a long-term deal after this year, his wife's from the Baltimore area, I think that played into it as well.
But what side did Sweet Pea run to?
Exactly. I was biting a hole in my lip on the Sweet Pea comment. But I think it's the thing is, every move that they've made this year, even the Anquan Bolden one, it came down to, was he Harbaugh's type of guy? And McKinney, they held off on him last year until the playoffs before they actually put him in when they said, look, Origis is not going to be able to do it at left tackle. We've got to go to McKinney. And, they're very good at PR and, hiding what really is the truth. But the bottom of every move they made during the offseason was, the guys, even Ed Reed, was not Harbaugh's type of guy. And those guys didn't come back to the Ravens.
I mean, we'll agree to disagree on that. Look, Ed Reed's at the end of the road. They made it a concerted effort to get younger and faster on defense. They needed to. We've seen that. Certainly the Houston game, if we don't have an improved defense there, we don't win that game. So that might, the Harbaugh thing, that may play a little bit part, but I don't think
it's fair to compare McKinney to Ed Reed. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
That's true.
But I will say, I think we could all agree that McKinney, coming into this year, was on a short leash.
Sure.
And whether that leash was broken with the party bus incident, we'll probably never know. Of course, Steve Bisciotti is going to be here in a couple weeks. Maybe we can ask him.
And you made the point, Michael. I mean, there's no downside. I mean, there's no upside to cutting McKinney. You've got to keep him on the team.
Yeah.
He just became your #1 backup. And the thing about it is, Monroe, there's so much upside. All he's going to do is make your team better. He's going to make that offensive line at least play a lot better on the run. And the Ravens are near the bottom of the league, I think 5th worst in run average. Right. So you got to do something.
Yeah, I think they're 28th right now. But still, okay, that's one position, and that's huge at left tackle. He's a good pass blocker. He's a pretty good run blocker. But there's still other 4 guys that have to be accountable. Maybe hopefully that sends a wake-up call to him. You know, Steve, we were talking off the air a little bit. You know, Gronkowski, I still think he is the long-term guy. But they've kept a guy named Ryan Jensen on the roster despite a foot injury. And you almost wonder if they think enough of this kid that maybe, you know, he's going to push Gronkowski in practice and maybe take over that role if he's good enough in practice when he gets healthy.
Well, I think that's one of Harbaugh's biggest points is, you know, competition makes you better. And Jensen may make Gronkowski better when he comes back to the roster. Just like, you know, Malone may make McKinney better. You know, just a competition there for a brief couple games until obviously he passes him with his work ethic. So
and you got the kid AQ Shipley they got from Indianapolis is in the mix too. So yeah, I agree with you. I think Gronkowski needs to play better, and I think he's shown some signs that he can play well. But it's your body of work, and so far it's still a work in progress.
One other point, I think the Ravens are still finding their identity. I think this team is young in a lot of places. I think they're still trying to figure out who they are, and I think they need some time to do that.
Let's talk defensively for a second here. There were some positives in the game. Jimmy Smith on Steve Johnson, a vertical threat, did a really good job. And even on the play in the end zone where I can't believe when the field was cut in half when Manuel rolled out that he was allowed to catch, but he ended up swiping it away so that the receiver didn't have possession by the time he was out of bounds. But Jimmy Smith played a good game on that. Can't blame Corey Graham on the touchdown ahead of Bo Bitt on that underneath route by the tight end. So all in all, Manuel did not have a great game in the air. He was I think 14 for or something like 10 of 21. That is, he had 2 picks in the game. There were again some bright sides, and I thought, guys, the defense kept us in the game.
And Ladarius Webb went out of the game in the first quarter, I believe. Yeah. So when you lose your best corner to injury again, and you rely on Corey Graham and Jimmy Smith, I think you're right, Mike. A good point. Jimmy Smith, I thought, has stepped up his game the last couple of weeks. That's a good sign for Ravens fans because he's going to play an important part. And if we can continue to get better and more pressure on the quarterback, I think Jimmy Smith and those corners can take advantage of some picks.
We have to wrap things up. No question, though. The defense against the running game has to get better. I think they're capable of doing it. More of the Ravens Wrap Show to come right here on Comcast Speech TV.
In April 1959, Art Wall won the Masters, edging out Carey Middlecoff and Arnold Palmer by finishing birdie, 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 par birdie. 1 month later, Ocean City Golf Club celebrated the opening of their first 18 holes. That course has been transformed now into one of the most scenic golf layouts on the East Coast. Come experience 36 of the most beautiful and challenging holes you'll find anywhere. Ocean City Golf Club in Ocean City, Maryland.
Come see us at Blue Rock.
Welcome to the Comfort Inn Gold Coast. Conveniently located just 1 block from the beach and adjacent to shopping at the Gold Coast Mall and the movie theater. Newly renovated and open year-round with a marvelous bayfront view. Visit us on the web at comfortgoldcoast.com and see our hot deals and great golf packages, or simply call our direct reservation line to plan your stay.